Good evening. A few weeks ago, we heard a claim of fact speech from our colleague Jesus, in which he argued that major market teams have an inherent advantage in acquiring players in major sports. I'm here to refute this claim. Therefore, my proposition is big market teams do not have an advantage in acquiring players in professional sport leagues. I have 3 responses to prove that Jesus' claims are insufficient. I will leave you to come to an agreement with me on these claims by speaking on 1, the minuscule role that location plays in a team's success, 2, how revenue is not affected when you are in a small market, and 3, how a team's history is insignificant to a team's current success. My first point, 1. Location does not play a huge role in the success of professional sports teams. According to ForbesList.com, the Dallas Cowboys are the NFL's most valuable team with a team value of $5 billion. This was calculated in September 2018. Also, the Cowboys are proven to be the world's most valuable franchise across all sports. According to Jesus' claim, you would think that the Dallas Cowboys would be dominating the NFL with Dallas's beautiful weather and with such high team value, but this is false. In January of 2019, the Dallas Cowboys team journalist Stefan Stevenson reported the Cowboys' postseason drought stretches back 21 seasons. Basically, since winning their last Super Bowl in January of 1996, the Cowboys have struggled to do anything in the playoffs. This leads to my second point. Revenue is not affected when you are in a small market team. Jesus asserted expectations are not high, therefore small market teams don't spend much money because they do not believe they can win that season. Additionally, Jesus used the example of the Cleveland Browns' unsuccess in the 2017 season in an attempt to show that the Browns can't acquire top-tier players because of their small market value. Although, as of yesterday, March 12, 2019, the Browns acquired arguably the best receiver in the NFL, Odell Beckham Jr. According to Sports Illustrated, Odell Beckham Jr. is the highest paid receiver in the NFL with a 5-year, $90 million contract. Therefore, it is evident that Jesus' argument that small market teams don't spend enough money because they don't believe that they will win is false. This leads to my third point. The history of big market teams does not play a key role in whether a player may go there. Jesus argued that a team's successful past influences players. This argument neglects the personal interests of players. For instance, in 2014, LeBron James signed with his hometown Cleveland Cavaliers for the sole purpose that he wanted to return to his hometown. According to CNN.com, before LeBron's return to the Cavaliers, the entire city of Cleveland had not seen a championship title in over 50 years. This proves that the depressing history of Cleveland did not undermine LeBron's decision to join the team. Overall, as professional sports continue to grow amongst the people's interest, I would hope that we do not confuse a team's overall success with the size of its market value. Thank you.
Right, Amber, it's a pretty effective response, although I do think it lacks a little bit of the specificity in response to the advocate's arguments that we might want. Basically, you've presented a series of counterclaims on the argument. I think that those claims also match the claims that were presented by the advocate. I know you're someplace, but I'm not sure about that because you never really kind of go back and tell us exactly what the advocate's claims are. Once in a while you refer to something that the advocate said, but I'm not sure if that was one of their secondary claims, it was one of the supporting pieces of information. I have no idea. My recall, it is a little bit late. It's a couple weeks later. My recall of what somebody's structure is going to be is like non-existent, and that's why you want to remind us of those particular points. I do think that your points are probably parallel to the points that the advocate presented, but you should make that a little bit clearer. Having said that, though, I thought that your responses were pretty effective. You talked about particular examples. Basically, this is a good illustration of how Counterexamples can undermine the generalization. We talked about this before when we were talking about the different forms of reasoning. Somebody creates a generalization using an example, and you show the exception, and suddenly the generalization's undermined. So Dallas is a big exception here. Here's a team that is a smaller market team that spends a huge amount of money and doesn't have any success, despite the fact that it's got all these attractive features, at least not in the playoffs. It's been forever since they've had that. And then you've got the counterexample of Cleveland, which has a reputation for not doing particularly well, and yet here we have the biggest star in basketball going back to Cleveland for the express purpose of helping his local team, where he came from, be successful, suggesting that there are other factors that people make decisions about. One of the factors that gets left out, by the way, there are multiple factors about where a player wants to play, is what kinds of careers they expect to have. If after they finish their career they want to work in the NFL and coach, then it may not matter where they go. But if they're interested in being a sports broadcaster later on, then maybe it matters that they're in a major market because they need to have access to Hollywood or New York studios, and having been in those towns would make a difference to them. Or maybe if they have families, it matters to them where their families are going to be located during the season. I think there are other arguments that you can make here. That's not you've got a good example here. I just think you can make a bigger argument and use more cases to illustrate your point than just the case of LeBron in this particular situation. And then I like the fact that you had a nice current example about Cleveland spending also. You've got Odell Beckham. It's a $90 million contract, the highest paid receiver in the NFL, and it's by the Browns, a team that the advocates specifically pointed to as a failure and one of the problems that's going on. And you say, well, so the Browns are having trouble landing top-name talent, except for yesterday where they signed Odell Beckham, that kind of thing. And again, that's one of those examples that undermines the generalization that the advocate's presenting. All right, thank you.